silent killer, or is it a sign of stability?
Joining us this morning, personality profiler, Dr. Richard Levak. Dr. Levak, always good to see you on this Monday. All right.
Are you bored?
Are you asking me?
Don't get me in trouble, Doc.
No.
I'm not saying a thing.
No, I am not bored,
No.
but, I've been with my husband for 17 years, so
Right.
as many people that have are in long relationships, you become comfortable.
That is a great distinction. When is being comfortable and being in a kind of habit where you understand each other's eccentricities and so on?
Sure.
When is that good and when is it bad? And that's the important distinction.
Okay, so how can we tell the difference? Are you bored? Are you in a routine? Some people welcome the routine and some people welcome the safety of that.
They do. They do. There are two big issues. One is, are you both on the same page? If you're both comfortable in your routine, it's just like over a number of years of marriage, people put on a little weight. If you're both a little heavier, if you both have the same kind of, every Wednesday we watch TV, we always sit and watch Fox 5 News together or whatever.
What a great couple that is.
So cute. That's cute.
That's okay, but if suddenly one of the partners starts to change radically, loses weight, starts to work out, if you're not talking to each other, if you don't listen to each other, if you don't laugh at each other's humor, if you go your sort of separate ways in a rut, that's a bad sign.
So you say that this could be, what, a silent killer with a relationship?
Yes, because when you're fighting, you know something's wrong. When you're arguing, when you have big conflict, you know something's wrong in our relationship, let's work on it. But when you are just in a rut where you're not talking to each other, we've all seen people who go out for dinner and don't say a word to each other. We know relationships where the couple are stable. They don't look like they're having problems. They're not complaining, but they don't find each other interesting. That's the silent killer, because in some cases, not all, somebody else comes along at the office who is exciting, who drags you out of your rut, and then you are easy prey for an affair.
Yeah, but wait a minute. What about those that have been married 40, 50, 60 years and they're just like two peas in a pod? They don't need that excitement of somebody coming along, and they just do very well.
And Shelley, that is fine. Two peas in a pod who've been together for a number of years or just a few years, they're comfortable and happy. It's when one person becomes dissatisfied. If you don't keep up on your relationship, you don't give it a little spice, whether it's talking to each other, doing fun things together, listening to each other, and being intimate, having relationships that are a little spiced up. That's where it's dangerous. We need to keep up on living a life that pleases both of you in some exciting way.
So can you be bored in a relationship, but not necessarily be in a bad relationship?
Yes, absolutely. You can. And that's where you should wake up and say, you know what? Every weekend's the same. We hang out, we never go to the beach, we don't do anything. You know what? This has become boring. Let's spice it up. Let's take a class. Let's do something different. That's a sign that we should spice it up a bit. So it's not always bad, but it's a silent killer because you don't realize something's wrong. You've just drifted apart.
Well, the key there is that they said that, you know what, we're kind of in a rut.
That's right.
Let's spice it up. Just bringing that up saves it in that moment, right?
Just bringing it up saves it. What I see in my practice is a couple will come in, they haven't fought. Everything's been stable, 15 years, 10 years of marriage, and then one day her husband or she is in the office, something sparks her interest, and she says to me, you know what, we've been in a rut, and I haven't realized it, and now I'm involved with someone.
What if, okay. That took a turn.
Yeah.
What about
Krista didn't like that.
Yeah, right? What about sexual boredom? Because let's be honest, nowadays with the way that you have the kids and you're working and this and that, the longer you're with somebody, maybe it's just not happening the way that it was when you first met. So is that a bad thing?
Well, it's a bad thing if one party feels bored and the other doesn't realize it. But the thing about sex, and we're on a morning show, so we don't want to be graphic, but the thing about sex is that there's a lot on the menu. You can spice it up. It doesn't have to be anything weird or dramatic.
Right.
But you can keep it interesting. People get into a rut, whether they sit in the same seat on the couch, watch the same great TV shows. Same with sex. You get in a rut, and you can spice it up. You can do things that we can talk about on a late night show to spice it up. You know
Okay,
about that.
that's where Chrissy comes in with a question. Chrissy.
Okay, so I know that I am not responsible for the excitement of others. So
That's right.
if you think that your partner is not excited or they're bored, there's no way that you can be responsible for them. How do you deal with that? I mean, they're the ones that have to do it, right?
That's a great question. If you're bored in a relationship, the best thing to do is to say to your partner, let's do some other interesting things. It doesn't have to be big. It might be taking a cooking class or a dancing class. But if one of you does something to make your life less boring, the other generally follows. Because you come back, hey, I went to a class, this is what I learned. You bring it back to your partner. But you're not responsible, but you are in a partnership.
Right.
So you do want to try to keep it equal and equally stimulating.
Interesting.
I like that.
Interesting.
Communication, equal.
You
This
can.
is good stuff. I should have been taking notes. I
Well,
will watch
you're not boring, Raul.
I can be. I'm kind of bored.
You come back.
Well, I try. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
very,
you,
Very
thank you.
interesting, right? Interesting stuff.